Hello guys, welcome to another video of human codes. Today we're going to talk about AWS. We're going to talk about cloud vendors. We're going to give you an example of what it really looks like. Now I'm going to we're going to go straight into it. Let me share my screen here. Get rid of this. So we're going to talk about AWS. Now, AWS is a cloud vendor. It essentially allows you to, if for example, you've got your own machine, you've got your own Windows machine, for example, and you want to use a Linux or like an Ubuntu server, you can actually create an account with AWS, which stands for Amazon Web Services, and then you can rent or borrow some of their services. This is really exceptional, especially when you're working in big corporate environments. They normally use this so that it can cut down their cost. So in this video, we're going to talk about a virtual machine. So with Amazon, you can actually, what you can do is you go to AWS, and once you're on AWS, let me just show you here. So AWS, you click the first link, you create an account. It will ask for your card details. You need to enter those details in, because eventually you get a free option first to use some of their virtual machines. However, later on you'll be charged depending on how much your usage is, of course. So once you've actually done those things, then it will bring you to this page. Now, for now, we're only going to focus on the instances. The instances are the virtual machines. If you're using, there's something called GCP, which is the Google Cloud, Google's Cloud, which they have a different name for it, but in AWS it's called instances. So you click here, and we're going to have a go at creating a virtual machine or a virtual server, if you like. So the first thing you want to do is click Launch Instance, and it will load for you. And you have an abundance of options to choose from. So we normally, and for the project that we're going to be doing later on in my channel, if you're new to this channel, of course, subscribe, like, comment, put the alarm on so that when the new videos comes out, you'll be able to join in. But we're essentially building all the necessary requirements in order to run a full application, which will communicate and persist data to a database, of course. So, of course, if you look at the options, you've got quite a lot of instantive options here, deep learning, AMI, which is quite really interesting if that's kind of the stuff that you're working with. For this purpose, we're going to only go with the Ubuntu server 20.04. Select that, and then it will give you the type of options that you have. T2.nano, sorry, is the smallest virtual machine that you can have. It's literally, if you imagine it's like a physical, imagine it's a physical computer, and that's the smallest you can get, so which is the 0.5 memory. And then the largest you can actually get is extremely ridiculously large, the Z1D.metal. The perks you get with this are extraordinary. These are more for, I guess, if you're dealing with like big data information or big application, you have a lot of requests coming to your service, then that'll be perfect. For the purpose of today, we're only going to select the T2.micro, and then next, which is it's actually a free version up to a certain limit, but it's actually a free version. We click configure. Bear in mind also that be mindful of the region you're in. So instances are region specific. So once you create a virtual machine in the one in the Ireland region, once you create your instance in the Ireland region, if you were to switch to, for example, the Tokyo region, you wouldn't be able to see your instance there. So be mindful of that, just because if you don't turn off your instances later on, then it will essentially run low on the free amounts that you have. And of course, it will make it difficult for you to actually find out where your instances are on. So yeah, we'll go straight into it. For now, I wouldn't go into too much detail of what everything stands for here. I guess I can make a different video. If you're sitting the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam, which I've already sat and passed, then this bit is quite important to know a little bit about what these things do. If you're doing the AWS DevOps Associate exam, then this is also quite important. For the purpose of this video, you want to click use subnet, you want to auto assign enable for the public IP address. This allows you to be able to then SSH into it from your actual current machine. And then this bit is quite important. For example, if you wanted to have certain commands that you wanted to run before you actually SSH into the machine, you would use this option here, and then you type in whatever you need in there. And just make sure we've got everything here. The number of instances we need is 1. Make sure it's 1, unless you need more than that, but make sure it's 1. And then it will normally run everything for you. The IAM role, normally it's to do with the type of things that yeah, so the IAM role, it's important in the sense that it's there to determine what kind of, I guess, responsibilities or access that your AWS instance can have. So I'll give you an example. For example, if say you've got S3 is a place of storage within AWS. If you've got files there and you want access, you want to be able to access those files from your AWS instance to your S3, it will normally block it just because you need to grant access to it. So you can create an IAM role and then attach it to your instance, and therefore giving it certain priority, certain accesses to certain as I guess certain infrastructures within AWS. It's really important as a best practice within AWS. So pay attention to that. For now, we're not going to assign any IAM role because what we need to do is all very kind of internal today. So we've selected this thing, and then we'll go to next. For now, we'll just keep our basic storage. We're not going to do anything too interesting on this particular video with this instance. I'm just going to show you how to launch and how to get into it. Add tags. If you want, you can add a tag, which you like, name, and you can call it, I'm going to call it Emmanuel. And then next we can go and talk about security groups. So with the security groups, it's important that you want to select for the security group, always select my IP address. That way it will allow your specific IP address access into that security group, into that particular SSH. If you imagine security group, it's like it only allows certain things access into that particular infrastructure or instance. So I'll go with my own IP address. Of course, I'm going to cut that out just so that it's not exposed, because I can't have that exposed. So cut out the IP address. Okay, cool. So you can have a look at your security group there. I'll cut out that bit also. You can have a look. So I've cut out my so of course my IP address is, I've selected my IP address. You can have a look at to see what's been done by clicking on this one. It will show you what options you've gone for in terms of the security group. And then finally, we're going to launch it. So click launch here. Now, this is quite important. This is what gives you access to your virtual machine. Now, you can choose existing key pairs, which I've got quite a few existing key pairs. You may not, if this is your first time actually creating a virtual machine, then you want to click on create a new key pair. A key pair, if just to give you a small understanding of it, it's like a password essentially, but it's what you need. It's a file, it's a document which has the credential needed for you to actually be able to enter into a key file. So we're going to call it unique. So if you read the things that it wants you to do, you just need to call it a certain name. We're going to call it I'm going to call it U2, right? And very important here, you need to download that key pair. If you do not download that key pair, you may not have access to it again, and you won't be able to actually enter the machine or SSH and be able to do anything with the machine. So click download it, and it will download that youtube.pem. Now you're ready to launch your instance. So scroll down here, and you can view your instance. You can tell here the name that I remember I selected when I was doing the tags, Emmanuel, and it will normally, sometimes it takes a while to run up the instance, just because it has to do some internal checks to it. I think sometimes it has about 4 different checks to test it and make sure that it's working fine. This is really important, especially if you created a really big application and you had a cluster of virtual machines, or we call it a cluster of instances, then these internal checks are really good, because then if something isn't working, you know straight away that there's a problem and you can deal with that immediately. Great. So now you've got your public IP address. You want to open up your terminal. It's really good if you've downloaded Git Bash from one of my other videos. But here, so what you want to do is, if you want, you can just SSH. You want to do SSH, and then -I. I will tell it where you're referencing that PEM key. So remember, we downloaded the PEM key. You need to find exactly where you downloaded the PEM key. Normally, it will go to your download section. So it should be in my download section here. .pem, and then here's where it's quite important. So you then need to do the @ So you need to find out what you're using. Normally, I think it's an Ubuntu. So Ubuntu @ then you want to paste in that IP address, your public IP address, and then you press enter. And then it'll ask, are you sure you want to continue connecting? You need to literally type in yes into that terminal, and then it will wait. And here we are. So we've connected into our terminal. I'll just make that clear there. And the first thing you want to do, you can check there's nothing in there at the moment. But some of the first thing you want to do when you enter a terminal, a brand new terminal, is you need to update it. So you want to do sudo apt and then choose the applicant -y, and then that will begin to run updates for you. It's really important, especially when you're going to be installing things like Python or whatever language you want to code and whatever you need to do on these things, on these virtual machines. It's really good that you update so that it has the most updated version of everything. And then you need to upgrade it also. Upgrade. A lot of people don't really do this, but when their updates, they don't actually initiate them by actually upgrading them. So that's what you do here. And as you can see, everything is upgrading quite nicely. It may take a while. Obviously, it depends on the size of the virtual machine that you're using. Here we've gone for one of the cheapest one of the smallest ones. So it's literally going to take a little bit longer than usual. But the larger your instance size in terms of the power, the more powerful it is, the faster it is to actually be able to achieve certain things on there. Bear in mind, this is an actual computer. Bear in mind, always see your virtual machine or your instance, AWS instance, as an actual computer. So that's all done. We can clear that off. And then if, just for example, let's make sure everything works. We can create a file, say touch emmanuel.txt. Unless we've created a file called emmanuel.txt, we can vim into it or nano into it. This is Emmanuel. Save that. I will make another video on all the commands that you will need for interaction with Linux machines. So ls, and then we can cat is just so that you can have a peek at the file without actually going into the file. And you can do cat Emmanuel. You can see we had what's the name? It's just this is Emmanuel. But yeah, let's delete it. Remove Emmanuel, and ls is done. One great thing is once you've finished using, also I will mention some of my other videos I talked about Git cloning. You can actually Git clone repositories right into your virtual machine. Git clone, and then you can call it whatever you need. But I don't have any repositories right now. You Git clone, I can find some online, I guess. Then you can Git clone them here. If you have Virtual Studio Code, then you're also free to, I guess, download, install the SSH on there and then connect directly through there, which is actually much more better. Yeah, and one last thing, once you're done with your virtual machine, and what I mean done, I mean you've done all the projects on there, and if you're working with something like GitHub or GitLab, you made sure you pushed everything to your GitLab, to those repositories, and you've backed it up, then you need to, and you want to terminate your instance. So you want to close your terminal down. You want to close your terminal down, select it, and you want to click on instance, so you can stop it. If you stop it, it's not technically it's still running. It's not running. Sorry, it's if you stop it, it's almost like you've shut down the computer. But it's still there. You're not being charged for it because it's not on. However, if you're never planning to use that terminal again, which this Ubuntu server we're not going to be using again, well, I'm not going to be using again, I will terminate it. By the time this is gone up, obviously that IP address will no longer be reserved to this particular instance. So yeah, terminate that, and then successfully terminated. So it would then take a while to shut down. And then once this all shut down for you, then yeah, it's all done. It's all ready. Yeah, once again, my name is Emmanuel. I hope you've enjoyed this video. This one's quite important. So if you could follow along and do those things, it will really help you later on when we go ahead and we do some of the other videos that's going to come up in terms of the project that we're working on. Thank you very much for your time. I really hope you had an exciting day. Yeah, take care. Thank you very much.